Most people think getting rich is about luck or earning a massive salary, but the truth is that it's all about how you think about money and the rules that you follow. After 15 years in the finance and investing world, I've seen firsthand how wealthy people apply a different set of money rules that they follow to give them an edge. So in this video, we'll go through 7 crucial financial rules that separate those people with financial freedom from those struggling to get ahead. Most people break these rules without even realizing it, so let's make sure you're not one of them. So with that, our first rule is buy assets that make money, not liabilities that cost money. Now, we're kicking off with what may well be one of the most fundamental rules. This is one of the major differences between people who are building wealth and people who aren't. Understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Wealthy people really put an emphasis on buying things that put money into their pockets, things like stocks, rental properties, and businesses, rather than splashing the cash on things that will just drain their finances, like clothes, expensive cars, and lavish holidays. And this follows, I think, a really simple idea. The idea is that capital scales really, really well, and that compound growth can be one of the most vital parts of building wealth. If you're constantly accumulating more assets, which are giving you a return, then that means your income is growing, which means you can buy more assets, which leads to more income, and so on and so on. This leads to a virtuous wealth-creating cycle. But let me explain with an example. If you have £1,000 to invest and you get a 10% return a year, then that means you get another £100 by the end of the year. But if you have £1 million and you make the same 10% return, then that's another £100,000 per year that you can use to accumulate more assets to generate more wealth. But all is not lost. Starting small is key. Even starting with dividend-paying stocks or low-cost index funds can help you build momentum towards significant income-producing investments over time. And don't forget that the earlier you start, the more time you give compound interest to do the heavy lifting for you. Our next rule that the wealthy follow is to live below your means. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people in history, still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. And I think this really exemplifies a crucial principle. Wealth is built not by displaying success and shouting about it, but by quietly accumulating it. That you can only build wealth with the money that you keep, not just the money that you earn. So as your income grows, wealthy people resist increasing their spending proportionally. There is literally no point getting a £100 a month pay rise if you then go and lease a £300 a month BMW. You are literally worse off than when you started. And this is really the curse of lifestyle inflation, the tendency to spend more as you earn more. And this is unequivocally one of the biggest obstacles to building wealth that most people just fall for. What's the point of every time you bust a gut to fight for a pay rise and you just end up spending the difference? Then you're no better off than you were before. The rich understand it's not about how much you make, but how much you keep. And there are a few ways you can avoid lifestyle creep. Setting up automated saving and investing plans can be a really great way to make sure that you're meeting your savings goals. And every time you get a pay rise, just increase your savings by that amount and you don't even see the money. Calculate real changes to your budget. How depressing is it that you get a pay rise, then you take out taxes, student loans, and you realize that the actual amount that hits your account on payday is nothing like as big as you thought it was going to be. You should subscribe to this channel because we have a video coming out on how to spend money and hone the skill of spending money. Or watch this video just here, link will be in the description and at the end of the video. You can add to your emergency fund. Before you start spending your pay rise or your bonus, why not use the additional money to build yourself a bit of a financial buffer for when things inevitably crop up? This is something we're going to revisit later on in the video as well. Next rule is learn how to grow your income, not just cut your expenses. So we've just talked about lifestyle creep and what a scourge it can be, and that you can only build wealth with what you have left over. But there's another half to that equation. Don't get me wrong, whilst controlling your expenses is essential, wealthy people really understand that increasing their earning potential should also be a priority. They understand that there's a limit to how much you can cut costs, how much you might be able to tighten the belt before you can't breathe, but that the upside potential of their income is pretty much unlimited. They invest in themselves through education, skills, development, and one of the most important things, pursuing multiple income streams. This interesting study from the IRS in the States found that the average American millionaire has 7 sources of income. But given that the main way that most people will build their wealth is through their salary, why not make sure it's working as hard as possible for you? So how many people do you think negotiate their salary? There is so much empirical evidence that the success rate of asking for a raise is much, much higher than you might expect. And it's not a rude or unexpected gesture to negotiate your salary. In fact, one survey by Robert Half found that 70% of managers expect job candidates to negotiate. So while these conversations about pay might be a bit intimidating and God knows they can be awkward, in all probability, your manager or your employer is no stranger to these. But how many people actually negotiate? The same study found that only 44% of US employees surveyed said that they negotiated their salary when moving jobs. And as I mentioned, negotiating has a much better hit rate than you might think. According to a Fidelity study, negotiating really works. While the research found less than half of Americans negotiated their current salary, among those who counted on salary, benefits, or other compensation, 85% got at least some or all of what they asked for. And the rich understand this, that negotiating is a really important skill. And when it comes to their income, that nobody is going to fight for it as hard as they will. The fourth money rule that the wealthy follow is they never stop their financial education journey. Now, at this stage, it barely seems worth pointing out, but in the interest of being comprehensive, we will. There is a plethora of empirical evidence that people who have better financial literacy score better in just about every single money metric imaginable. There's this study, which was a comprehensive review, which found that people with higher financial literacy are more likely to engage in effective financial decision-making, leading to better financial behaviors. There's this study here, a study that revealed that individuals with greater financial literacy are more prone to achieving better financial well-being as they more effectively manage their finances. There's this study here, which found individuals with better financial literacy are more adept at managing debt, resulting in lower levels of financial stress and improved financial stability. There's also this study here, which was empirical evidence suggests that financial education programs enhance financial literacy, which in turn positively impacts individuals' saving behaviors. And this is maybe the best one. This was a meta-analysis of 126 impact evaluation studies, which found that financial education significantly improves financial behavior and to an even larger extent, financial literacy. So what does all this tell us? It tells us if you have a better understanding of money, you make better financial decisions, you have better financial well-being, you have less debt, you save more, and you have better financial outcomes. So what does this tell us about how wealthy people do it? Well, wealthy people treat financial education as an ongoing investment in themselves and their financial journey. Because the truth is, understanding basic investing principles and tax strategies and wealth preservation is kind of absolutely essential. So the rich really understand that good financial literacy is one of the critical rules that they have to follow, not just for funsies, but out of necessity. Next rule up is automate your wealth building and pay yourself first. Now, which one of these sounds like the habit of someone who is wealthy and someone who isn't? A sporadic saver or a consistent investor? Successful wealth builders really understand that consistently investing isn't only a sound strategy for maximizing your returns in the market by dollar cost averaging and investing in the highs and lows of the market, but also that if you invest only when you'd remember, then you'd forget all the time. And again, there's empirical research on this one too. This study by Vanguard found that automatic contributions are one of the biggest factors in growing your wealth over time. And people with money get this. They understand that removing the emotion and the chance for financial decisions to slip their mind, that setting up systematic investment plans, automatically directing money to various investment accounts before they have the chance to spend it is just it's key goods, absolutely key goods. And what this really does is it makes saving and investing non-negotiable. By automating those contributions to retirement accounts and emergency funds and so on, instead of spending their money and hoping that there's something left at the end of the month for investing, they treat it like another bill and all their wants have to fit around it. And our next rule is learn how to protect your wealth. So far in the video, we've talked about pretty much only one thing, and that's how to build wealth. Granted, there's a lot to it, there's a lot to consider, but there's the other half of this equation, which gets way less attention. The other half is how you protect your wealth once you have it. And there's empirical evidence for this one too. This study analysed data from 63,000 US households and found that, contrary to lots of theoretical expectations, wealthier individuals tend to purchase more insurance coverage. Saying, quote, using administrative data for 63,000 individuals across 2.5 million person-month observations, we find that wealthier individuals have better life insurance coverage, controlling for the value of assets insured, namely the consumption needs of dependents. So what does this tell us? It tells us that wealthy people understand that the market can dip, that a loss of income for even a wealthy family can be a devastating shock to your family finances. And so having insurance that can help protect against some of that is really worth doing. And without becoming too morbid, this becomes even more important when you have people who rely on you financially. So having sufficient insurance to protect your wealth is another key money rule that the wealthy have clearly got absolutely dialed in. But insurance isn't the only way that the rich and you can protect your cash. The other thing that people with money do is they have big cash piles and emergency funds, as well as big insurance coverage, not instead of. Having large deposits of cash in emergency funds basically means that they don't have to dip in and out of investment accounts and potentially crystallize gains or losses, not to mention potentially creating tax liabilities, but that's for another video. A really robust emergency fund typically covers 3 to 6 months of living expenses and provides a buffer against income disruption or some of those unexpected costs from wherever they may fly. And we move to our final rule, which is use debt correctly, not to fund liabilities. So this is kind of linked to our first point, but I think with an important difference, which we should really dive into. The wealthy view debt as a potential lever for building wealth, not a means to afford luxuries. Now, let's take a look at this article here to really dive into what I mean. Despite having plenty of cash, Jay-Z and Beyonce got a mortgage for their $88 million Malibu home. But why if they can pay cash for it? So the power duo buys an $88 million mansion and opts for a $52.8 million mortgage from Goldman Sachs at 3.15%. Could they have paid in full? Absolutely. But here's the genius move. By borrowing, they free up $52.8 million to invest elsewhere. They pay approximately $29 million in interest over the 30 years, bringing the total loan cost to $81,684,404. But, and it's also a big but, that $52.8 million is now unleashed to work its magic in the investment world. If you're invested in the S&P 500 at an 8% annual return compounded over 30 years, it grows to an impressive $531,308,283. But we should also note that they have plenty of other assets elsewhere and they could afford to pay for it in cash. And the rule that the rich abide by here is if they think they can get a better rate of return than the rate of the mortgage, then they will choose to invest. If you really want to take your understanding of this to the next level, you could watch this video here where we go through 40 harsh money truths that you have to know. Or we have this video here about how you can fix your finances in under 20 minutes. This is Modern Money Talk, where we talk all things personal finance and economics related. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe. And it doesn't cost you a penny, and you can always unsubscribe later. And let me know in the comments, what do you think we've missed from this? Is there something else that we really should be including in order to make this list more comprehensive? Love to know what you think. Thanks very much for watching.